It's a brand new release and it's all part of our new effects range. So this is one of the few videos that we'll be putting out to showcase the new effects range and all the different products from myself and some of the other designers, and it will be all under the title of #effectsstory. So if you're wanting to check out any of the other products that are in the range, then make sure to sort of search for that hashtag and they'll all be under there. So there are quite a few new products in this new effects range, and today I'm going to touch on our brand new luster waxes. Now, if you haven't heard of them before, I am obviously going to go into detail about them, but for now we have 3 different colours. So there's a copper, a gold and a silver, or the copper's kind of like a rose gold effect, but those are the 3 colours, and hopefully you can see them a little bit, but I will show them up close when I use them in the video. But they're all in these gorgeous little pots, really beautifully packaged. And luster wax is kind of what it says on the tin. Once you use it and start to burnish it onto your paper or whatever you're putting it on, it creates that really nice shine and glisten, and it just highlights those areas that you want to add a little bit of shine to. Okay, so I'm gonna show you in detail how to use them on a couple of makes, on sort of different types of cardstock, and maybe some things that you hadn't have thought about using them the way that you haven't thought about using them before. And just so you know, I am a beginner with these and even I can use them. I hadn't really used anything like this before. We here at Sizzix had bought this sort of range out, and I love them. They're really, really super easy to use. They smell amazing. They smell like orange because they've got lovely orange oil in there, and they just smell amazing. So they're really, really pleasant to work with, and they're just super easy. So anybody can use these, whether you're a beginner or whether you're a little bit more of a veteran when it comes to these kind of products and the more effects style, mixed media style. They're also going to work fantastically because we've designed them to just work for any type of person who's whether starting out or whether a little bit more experienced. Okay, so I'm going to bring you down and I'm going to show you some different techniques and different makes using them and show you them in action, and yeah, we'll get started. So I'm just going to bring you down so you've got a better view. There we go. Okay, so like I said, these come in 3 different shades. So you've got the silver, gold and the copper. I'm just going to open them up so you can kind of see the consistency of them. So they're quite a thick paste almost, and the way to apply them I find is best with your finger. If you are wary about that because you don't want to get it on your fingers, you can use a sort of clean, soft cloth. That would also work brilliantly. But they do work great with your fingers, and you can just get them off with a tissue, a damp tissue, or a alcohol wipe. So I'm going to use my fingers today to apply them. And I'm going to have them just there. So the kind of things that you can do with them, I'll show you a couple of examples. They are fantastic with embossing folders. So hopefully you can see that this is one of our embossing folders from chapter 1. And I've just embossed it onto a dark coloured cardstock. So this is on a blue coloured cardstock, and then I just used the gold luster wax over the top, just ever so lightly, to just pick up those embossed areas, and it just really brings it to life, makes it look so professional and just really, really stands out. But that is on a darker card, and it does also work on something lighter like this. So this is obviously a white or a sort of light cream coloured cardstock, and you can see that I've done the same just with the silver. So exactly the same embossing folder, just a little slightly different makeup and composition, but obviously it's just showing you the dark versus the light and how it does work with both. And this one's got the silver on, and I am actually going to show you, I think, how I apply it on a light colour, and then I'm going to go into the darker colours as well. So if I bring this in, so I've already cut this out, so this is from some of our Ivory Opulent cardstock. It's the soft matte texture, and I really, really like this for working with the luster waxes, just because it's got a really nice texture, but it does work on any kind of cardstock really. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the silver, and I've got a piece of spare card because you don't want to apply a lot of product, so you might want to pick it up from your finger and then take off the excess on a spare piece of card. Now this is just going to help you so you don't put tons of product straight onto your make. Now if you find that you're getting a little bit low on your product and you don't want to get your finger in, particularly if you've got longer nails, you might want to scoop it out. So I've just got the end of my tweezers. I'm just going to scoop a little bit out and just pop some there. So just showing you can just dip your finger straight in, and I will do on some of the others, but you can scoop it out as well. So I've just popped a little bit on there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it on my finger and rub it around and sort of rub off most of the excess. And then you just want to, in really soft circular motions, just slightly burnish. You just want to take little bits, because the thing with this is you can always add more afterwards, but you can't take it away. So you kind of want to start little and then add more as you go if you want a stronger effect, okay? So it might look like I've got loads on my finger, but each time I'm barely picking up anything. And that's why we use the spare card, just because it saves me, like, I'm going to dip my finger in there, I'm going to take a massive chunk, and then it's going to get into all the crevices on the embossing folder, which is not what I want. Okay. So you can see there it's on the lighter coloured cardstock. It does work beautifully. And that's just with the silver, and you can see how quickly that just picks up that top effect on the embossed areas, and it just looks amazing, just really brings that to life. And you can see the difference from the top bit where there isn't any luster wax to this middle section here where I've popped it, and it just really brings it to life and makes it all that more special. And then if you kept going, obviously you would have something like that, so you could use that as your whole background, and you barely have to do anything to make a really, really beautiful card. So that's on the lighter colour background, and I want to show you it on a darker colour. So what I'm going to do is, I've got a strip of black card here, and I'm actually going to emboss it. I'm going to bring these to one side just so I can bring in my machine. And I want to emboss that, and then I'm going to add some colour onto the top. So I'm going to use a different embossing folder from chapter 1. This is the Folk Doodle embossing folder. And I'm going to bring in my machine. And for embossing folders, you want to take off your top green, mint green platform, and then you're just going to use one plate. Okay? And sometimes I do recommend with embossing folders, just because our embossing folders they're quite detailed and some of the crevices can be quite deep. If you give your piece of cardstock just a little spritz with I've just got a bottle of water here, just a couple of spritzes on each side. And this just means that the card can be a little bit more malleable, okay? And it's just a little bit easier to mold into the shape that I want. So I'm going to pop this into my folder. Pop that there. I had already cut my cardstock to size for this, but you can cut them afterwards once they're embossed. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so there we go. So I just got the plate, the platform, sorry, then my embossing folder, and then one plate on top. Pop that through. And move this away. Now you have a piece of embossed cardstock. So this is a really, really gorgeous embossing folder, as you can see. And just by adding that water, it just means that the paper has moulded a little bit better. Okay, so what I'm now going to do is I'm obviously going to add some of that gorgeous luster wax. So bring those back in. And I'm going to show you how you can combine colours, and obviously also show you how it works on a darker colour cardstock at the same time. So I've already got some silver down. I'm going to put some copper down first. So this is me just going straight into the pot with my finger, like so, but I'm still going to use that card to get rid of the excess. And you see that's quite thick. If I went straight onto there with that, it just would be a bit too much. So I'm just going to start to work in circular motions. I might even put something on underneath. I'm just going to pop that underneath so I don't get any on my background. I'm going to work this in. Because I'm going to layer, I kind of want this all over. Okay. Because I'm going to work from copper first, then I'm going to add gold, and then I'm going to use silver to highlight some sections. Okay. The sensible option would have been for me to let my paper dry off a little bit first. So if you have wet your paper, just give it a bit of time in between. But I'm being impatient. I'm just going to take a little bit more and always rub off the excess. And you can already see how adding the luster wax to a dark coloured piece of card, which is embossed, looks incredible. Like, it picks up every little tiny detail and it just looks amazing. So I'm going to keep going. I think I can now start to think about adding the next colour. Obviously, if I had more time, I would go over it and do the whole thing. But, I mean, already, even just with one colour, this looks stunning. And I'm going to show you how you can use it on a card as well. Okay, so we've got the copper down. I'm now going to take the gold. Now, I have been using all of my 3 middle fingers to do this while I've been practicing. So I've just been having like copper on one, gold on another, silver on another. But just for right now, I'm just going to take a wipe and just wipe this off, just to show you how easy it is to get off. So there we go. So yeah, if you do have some wipes to hand while you're doing this, it's really easy to get it off. Otherwise, like I said, use all 3 fingers if you're using all 3 colours, and then just go and wash your hands with some soap and water at the end. Or if you're really dead against using your finger, use a soft cloth. That would work just fine too. So I'm now going to take some of the gold, and again, take the excess off. And this is where I'm going to like blend the 2 colours. So actually I could go in with the copper on another finger and sort of build them up on top of one another. and just keep working them in until you're kind of happy with how it looks. You could even do like an ombre effect, so I could stop with the gold when I got to about here, and I could go really soft so it like blends into the copper a little bit more. So there are loads of different options. Okay. And then last but not least, I want to use the silver. Now I'm going to use the silver really lightly as highlight colours. So I'm just going to wipe my fingers off again. There we go. So now I have clean fingers, and I'm just going to use the silver just very lightly. And I'm not going to sort of rub it in quite as much as I have done with the gold and the copper. I'm just going to sort of touch on some of the high points and really use it as a highlight. I am doing this upside down as well, so if I've missed any spots that don't look the best, I do apologise. What I really like about these compared to some other sort of waxes or polishes that I've used before, this has a really lovely consistency because it is a little bit thicker, which means that you can be way more controlled with where you're putting it and where it stays. And I find that really, really helpful because it means that you can just be way more precise with your makes and have a way more control. So the consistency is a big help, particularly if you are starting out and you've not done this before. It does really help. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. You can always sort of go in and add a touch more, but look how amazing that looks. It was just a piece of black card, and all we did was pop it through the machine with an embossing folder and added those 3 gilding waxes, the luster waxes, sorry, and look how amazing that looks. Now I cut it into a strip because I wanted it on the side of a card, so as you can see here, I've actually already sort of made it into a card just by popping that strip there, and then I've got some of the rose gold opulent, and then I got a sentiment that I already cut out, and I actually did the same kind of technique with the mixing of the 3 luster waxes, and that just looks so cool. I love how this is really unisex as well. I feel like males and females would really love to receive this and actually even work with the product and play with it, which is great. It's a lot of fun to play around with for sure, and I love how it works perfectly with our opulent cardstock, and you'll see that as I show you a couple more makes as well. So that's kind of like the mixing of the 3, and then I'll show you a couple more that are a bit more separate. Obviously I'm going to work with mostly cardstock today, but you can also use this for upcycling. So this is really fantastic for if you've got old materials, old furniture or old picture frames that have got a little bit of detail that you want to highlight, and it just works fantastically because it is a bit more permanent. Like, it's not really going to come off or anything. You can use it for upcycling and on furniture, and it's just really nice to sort of add that touch, and it makes it look really sort of bring it to life, and like a new modern kind of antique look, and they're just really fun to use on different things like that, as well as your traditional like card making and things. Okay, so let's see another one. Before I show you another full make as well, I wanted to show you this other card. This is using the floral lattice die from chapter 1. And the die comes in 2 sections, and what I did is I took just some navy coloured cardstock, and the 2 layers I just covered with 2 different kinds of the luster wax. So underneath I've got the copper, and then on top I've got the silver, and that's just on the same coloured cardstock. Both the layers were cut from the same colour, and then just added the two different luster waxes, and it just makes such a difference, and you can clearly see the difference between the two. And I could have even added touches of gold in there as well if I wanted to, but it just goes to show that you can use the same piece of card or the same colour card and get two completely different kinds of results just by using a different colour of the luster wax. And again, I've used some of the opulent cardstock as well, so we've got some of the silver and the rose gold here, and it's just beautiful. Like, barely took me any time. Really lovely idea, that one. And then last but not least, I want to show you how it can be used on things that aren't embossing or something a little bit more flat. So I've actually pre-cut a load of flowers from black coloured cardstock. Now, these flowers were cut from a couple of dies in chapter 1, mainly the Hello Spring die by Olivia Rose, I believe. And I've cut them in black just because I really wanted the luster wax to show up and sort of make a big impact. So that's what I've done. So I've got all those cut out. I'm going to bring back in my piece of card and my little spare piece that I'm doing the excess. If you haven't got like just a spare piece of cardstock lying around, or you don't want to waste them, your pieces of card, you can actually use post-it notes. You may have seen some of the other designers play around with them, particularly Pete maybe did in the overview where we went through quite a few of the products, and he always recommends to me to use a post-it note just because they're really disposable. So that's another option that you can have to get rid of your excess. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple of these flowers and just add some luster wax in a couple of different ways. Okay. And again, I'm going to use a mixture, so it doesn't particularly matter too much what order we go in. I'm going to start with the copper, I think, and some of them I'm going to go completely all over, and some I'm going to be a bit more precise and maybe just do edges and stuff. So you can have quite a lot of fun playing around with the amount that you use, like say the positioning of them on something like a floral. And you can see how little I've actually used from the pot. Even the one that I like scooped out, the silver, I barely used any. Like, these are going to last you so long. Obviously just make sure you're popping on the lid firmly after every use, but they're going to last you almost forever. So it's not something you're necessarily going to need to repurchase over and over again. I'm going to take some of the gold. I'm actually even taking sometimes just off the sheet. I am going to take a little bit more. And then I think with this big one, I'm going to sort of go around mostly the edges. You will find if you've got slightly textured cardstock, it does pick up on that texture, because obviously I showed you in the embossing it picks up on sort of every little texture. But if you wanted to, you could just cut your die cuts from the opposite side of the cardstock, which is a little bit smoother. Well, at least it is with our Sizzix cardstock anyway. So that's definitely an option if you really didn't like the texture on these. I'm going to take the silver now. And this one, again, I'm going to do mostly on the edges, I think. So I'm going to pick it up and just like so. Hopefully you can see this, guys. Obviously, they are a little bit smaller than the embossed pieces. But this is where you can kind of have a little bit of fun and be a little bit more creative. And use any flowers that you've got, really. If you wanted to use bigger flowers, that would be absolutely fine. I'm just using some of the smaller ones. I'm going to do this quite thick. Okay, I'll just do a couple more. And again, like I mentioned at the beginning, that lovely smell just makes them really nice and pleasant to work with. I have found that some of these waxes and polishes sometimes don't have the nicest smell, and it's really off-putting. So this is really nice when you get something that is just a sort of pleasure to use, I guess. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take my rose gold. See, I've got it on all 3 fingers now because I don't want to take the time to wipe it all off, so I'm just kind of going for it now. And some can be quite subtle, like that one's quite subtle, but you can also just add more if you want. Okay, I'm going to do this last one. I'm going to do that, I think it is silver. These would also be great. You can see that I'm like as I'm doing this, underneath is creating like a sort of stencil effect. So these would be great to use with stencils, I think, as well. And you could create a really nice effect. Okay, so I've got a few. I obviously haven't used all of them, but you could do quite a cluster. Obviously, for time's sake, I'm just going to do a few. And then we can start to assemble my card. I'm just wiping off my fingers to make sure I don't get any wax where I don't want it. There we go. Get rid of a bit there. Okay, so I'm just going to start to piece these together. I've got my card front here, and I'm actually going to sculpt these a little bit. So, taking them, and kind of, I found that once the luster wax is on there, it doesn't, I think I did mention this before, it doesn't really transfer or anything, so you can sort of pick these bits up and sculpt them and stuff like that, and it's not going to be too messy. Like, I'm picking them up with my fingers and there's barely anything on there. Like so. So they're all sculpted, and then I can start to position them. So I've just got some express glue, and I'm just going to start to arrange these. I'm just kind of clustering them in a little L shape, I think. Just wanted to show you something a little bit more modern, I guess, because I feel like sometimes people worry that mixed media and products like this can be a little bit, not sure what the word is, like almost like grungy, I guess. But you can use these techniques and make it really fresh and modern, and it doesn't have to be sort of out of your comfort zone, or a style that you're not a fan of. Obviously I'm doing this really quickly as well, so you take your time. Okay, so they're glued in place, and then I've got some foliage cut out as well from the same die, from that Hello Spring die. You can also sculpt these if you really wanted to. So you can give these a little sculpt. If you don't have a paper sculpting kit, which is what I'm using here, the Sizzix paper sculpting kit, you can just take them sort of lightly in your finger and give them a little bit of a bend. It doesn't create quite as a soft bend, but this is just another way to create that little bit of dimension. And then we can start to, I think, slot these in to that sort of cluster of flowers. And just take your time. You can always sort of maneuver some of the flowers if you're not happy with how they're looking. And you don't need a lot of this glue. This express glue is really, really good, so you barely need any of it. Okay, so I've started to create my little cluster there. Last but not least, I think I'm going to add some sequins. So these are the rose gold sequins and beads, and I'm actually going to use the beads as flower centers. So you can see how like everything kind of goes together. So we've got that gorgeous copper rose gold luster wax, the rose gold sequins, the rose gold opulent cardstock. It all sort of works together really, really beautifully. So I'm actually going to use some of those, since they all work so nicely together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop that inside of my Sizzix funnel tray and just put a little dab of glue inside each flower, roughly to the size that I want the center to be. And then I'm going to sprinkle the beads over the top. This is why I've got the funnel tray, because I don't want to waste any of these beads. They're far too pretty. And just, oh, that's right. And if I put too much down, it's going to catch any of the excess. Okay. Now I'm going to shake off the excess. And you could even just go in with your, we'll put that to one side, go in with your tweezers and just reposition these so they're slightly in the middle. Sorry if you can hear my house phone in the background, guys. Okay, I've got any excess to get rid of them. And there you go, you've got your cluster of flowers. Last but not least, I've cut a sentiment, again from that same Hello Spring die set from the rose gold cardstock, and I put some adhesive sheet on the back. And then I'm just going to pop that up here to finish this off. You can see that like this actually didn't take me that long. And I didn't do anything kind of groundbreaking or anything like that, but just adding that luster wax to the black flower cutouts just really made the whole card stand out. Okay. I'm doing that upside down, and it would be a lot prettier if I took my time, but that would be like the general front of my card. And then just to finish it off, I've got my completed one here, and all I did was add a banner of rose gold cardstock, and then I popped it on a piece of white and all trimmed to the right size. And you can hopefully see how that lovely cluster of flowers with the luster wax just really looks amazing. So there you go. I'm going to bring the camera up. I'm going to run through the projects again and some of the luster wax and yeah, finish off the video, and then I'll say goodbye. There we go, guys. Hopefully you can see me. Okay, so yeah, so generally that is the luster wax. I'm just going to bring back my projects just to show you one last time the different techniques. So we've got obviously the last one that I just made with those gorgeous flowers. Then we've got the layered one with the floral lattice, just to show that you can use the same kind of cardstock but use different luster wax to create a different effect. And then we've got the light and dark, oh, that one's upside down, there we go, light and dark, just to show you the different techniques and different effects that you can have on the different kinds of cardstock, just by using the same embossing folder and a different piece of card, and you can have a really different effect. And then the last one where I showed you how to blend those different luster wax colours together to create a stunning effect with some embossing folder on like a darker colour card. So yeah, hopefully you've got some really good techniques and ideas to get you started with these luster waxes. If you do have any questions, make sure to pop them below, and myself or one of the other designers here at Sizzix will make sure to answer them. I don't think I actually mentioned as well that these are 20 milliliter pots, which is 0.7 fluid ounces. So yeah, they're a massive chunk. Like I said, you're going to not really run out of them anytime soon. They're a fantastic consistency, so you're not going to make a load of mess. Fantastic for beginners if you've never used them before, again probably due to that consistency, and they come off your fingers really easily with just using a wipe, and they're just amazing to add to your collection and just get a little bit more creative and add a little bit of mixed media into your crafting. So they're all part of the brand new Effectz range. So there'll be these and a couple of other products that you will need to keep your eye out for. I believe they are available now. So yeah, make sure to head on over to the Sizzix website to get your hands on them and check them out. And keep an eye out on all the different products that will be coming to our Effectz range over this month and throughout the rest of the year, because we're always looking to expand our brand new ranges, particularly this one because we're so excited about it. And yeah, if you want to check out any of the other videos around this brand new range, make sure to follow that hashtag Effectz Story, Effectz with a Z, and you'll be able to get loads of inspiration and techniques to help you get started if you have got your eye on some of these brand new products. Okay, so I think that's everything from me today, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I had so much fun sharing with you the luster waxes, and hopefully you're as excited as I am to get playing with these new products. And you can share with me some of the makes that you've made over on social media platforms, whether that's Facebook or Instagram, anything like that. I'd love to see them. But yeah, until the next one, guys, stay safe and keep crafting. Thanks.